Hello and welcome to this series, Expert's Choice. My name's Suzanne Higgott. I'm one of the curators at the Wallace Collection. I'm responsible for the glass, Limoges Painted Enamels, Earthenware and Early Furniture. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to present to you one of the fascinating and characterful works of art in my care. It resides in the 16th century gallery, which evokes the so-called 16th century room at Hertford House, the home of the Wallace Collection, when Sir Richard and Lady Wallace lived here in the late 19th century. In this gallery, you can discover a multitude of Renaissance objects. The work of art I'm going to talk about is in the case of glass vessels that you see on the far right. This beautiful glass goblet was made in France in the mid-16th century. It's large at 22.4 centimetres high and generously proportioned. The glass itself has a greyish tinge. It's enamelled in yellow, white, blue, red and green with black details and enriched with gilding. The most important component of its decoration is the depiction of Christ on the cross on the goblet's foot. At the top of the cross, the letters INRI are inscribed. The ribbon-like white scroll, shaded in pink, that passes behind Christ's knees is inscribed in Latin, Sine me nihil. I'll come back to the inscriptions later. The rest of the decoration on the foot comprises grotesque ornament. The detail here shows the central bundle at the back of the foot, from which blue cornucopiae with foliate scrolls emerge. Grotesque ornament takes its inspiration from the ornament of classical antiquity, such as that on the wall paintings discovered in the Emperor Nero's Golden House in Rome when it was excavated in the 1480s. And here you see the scrolls on either side, that to the left of Christ replete with a scowling dolphin, that to his right incorporating a dolphin with a more benign expression. The goblet's bowl takes the form of an inverted bell. It is enamelled with a repeat pattern of yellow, blue and gold rays, alternating with a squiggly white line. A closer look reveals that there are black details on the white lines, and that each white line depicts a downward-facing snake. Below the rim, the bowl has an encircling band of gold leaf, incised with a repeating half-flower pattern. This is flanked by an inner blue and an outer red line of enamel within a band of white dots. The goblet's short stem incorporates a projecting narrow glass disc known as a maurice. Below the stem, the large knop, the ball-like feature, is moulded in a honeycomb pattern, the raised borders of the cells delineated in yellow, the centre of each cell containing a flower head with a blue centre and white and gold petals. A distinctive feature of the stem and the upper section of the foot is the pattern of red dots against a gold background, in cells delineated by vertical lines in blue and white, terminating at the top of the foot with an encircling red, white and blue band above white arcading. What purpose might this goblet have served? Its shape may well remind you of a chalice used in Christian worship. Owing to their fragility, the Roman Catholic Church forbade the use of glass chalices for the celebration of the Eucharist, the Christian sacrament in which congregants eat bread and drink wine in memory of Christ. The bread and wine are believed to represent, either literally or symbolically, the body and blood of Christ. There was concern that if a glass chalice broke, the consecrated wine would be spilt. The ban on glass chalices was not strictly enforced, but its frequent repetition indicates that glass chalices were used in the Catholic Church. From its inception in the early 16th century, the ideology of the Reformed Church increased in popularity. The ban on the use of glass chalices did not apply in Protestant churches. It's possible that the Wallace Collection's magnificent chalice-shaped goblet was used during the sacrament of the Eucharist. In France, the ban was specifically upheld in 1520, yet evidence for the use of glass chalices seems to be especially strong in France. The form and decoration of the Wallace Collection's glass echo those of French metalwork chalices, such as this silver gilt example from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, which was made in Paris in 1532-3. The Wallace Collection's chalice-shaped goblet is one of a small group of French glass vessels, many of which have inscriptions in French concerning love and Christian faith. Inspired by Venetian enamelled glass, which was highly prized in 16th century Europe, the French examples are idiosyncratic in their shape and decoration and share a predominantly red, white, and blue palette. The horizontal band of gold leaf below the goblet's rim is incised with a pattern of triangles, each containing a half flower head, as you see in the upper detail here from our glass. This pattern derives from an engraving that occurs in some French books of hours published at the beginning of the 16th century, and you see an example below. The flower may be intended as a marguerite or oxeye daisy, symbol of Christ's blood and the Virgin's tears. The motif occurs on several examples in the group of French enamelled glasses to which the Wallace Collection's goblet belongs, including those that would only have been used in a secular context, as the Wallace Collection's goblet itself may have been. If the goblet was used in a secular context, the depiction of the crucifixion may have been understood to protect the drinker against poison. How was this glass made? The glass itself was hot worked at the furnace. The bowl, hollow, straight-sided stem, and a mould-blown knop are all made from a single bubble of glass called a parison. The flat disc on the stem, the maurice, was made from a separate trail of glass, which was applied to the stem and then flattened. The underfolded foot was made from a separate parison. The joining of the foot to the rest of the vessel was part of the hot working process. The gilding and enamels were applied cold to the fully formed vessel. Gold leaf was used for the band below the rim and in some other areas, while liquid gold was painted onto the knop and some other parts of the glass. The vessel was then attached to a pontil and reheated at the furnace to fuse the gilding and enamelling to the glass wall. What is the significance of the iconography and inscriptions on the goblet? The crucifixion itself would remind the drinker of Christ's sacrifice in dying for the salvation of humanity. The inscription above Christ's head, INRI, is the abbreviated form of the Latin phrase that means Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. The Latin inscription on the scroll, Sine me nihil, is taken from the Gospel of St. John and means, without me, nothing. In the Gospel, the sentence from which these words are extracted was spoken by Christ. Christ said, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me, ye can do nothing. On the goblet, the inscription conveys Christ's message to the drinker, who quite literally drinks wine from the vine, and symbolically at least, if the glass was used during the Eucharist, Christ's blood. Snakes, seen here on the bowl, often occur in crucifixion scenes. They refer to the miracle of the bronze serpent in the Old Testament, in the book of Numbers. The Israelites, who had been bitten by snakes and come to realize that they had sinned, turned to Moses for help. God told Moses, make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. The New Testament provides a parallel, as described in St. John's Gospel, where it states, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man, that is Christ, be lifted up. As you lifted this glass to drink, you literally elevated Christ. Another explanation for the snakes may be that it was the serpent who tempted Eve before the fall, and it was through Christ's crucifixion that humanity was to be redeemed. The beauty of this goblet is immediately apparent, and its meaningful iconography greatly enhances its interest. It testifies to the skilled craftsmanship, faith, and, through its grotesque ornament, the appreciation for classical antiquity that are all hallmarks of the Renaissance cultural climate in which it was made and used. I hope that before too long, you'll have the opportunity to visit the Wallace Collection in person and discover or rediscover this and the many other treasures that the Wallace Collection has to offer. In the meantime, thank you for listening to this talk.